Hello and welcome to 10 Minutes on First-Time Voters. With the general election coming up on the 4th of July, today we are chatting with Maya Whittle, who is the Youth Moderator Elect for the United Reformed Church, for her perspective on being a first-time voter. My name is Bruce Stewart and I'm part of the Joint Public Issues team.
And my name is Maya Whittle. As well as being Mod Elect, I'm also Green Apostle for URC Youth, and I'm currently a college student with an interest in pursuing environmental law in the future.
Well, it's really great to have you with us. Thank you for talking to us. I've got a few questions for you about voting and what that means for young people. So will this year be the first time that you're able to vote?
Yes, it will.
And are you going to vote?
Yes.
And is there any particular reason why you will be intending to vote?
I feel it's a good way to get your opinion heard and get my say. I mean, you can't really sort of criticise the next government without voting.
And do you have any kind of family background of voting?
My parents and my grandparents are always voters, so it's sort of quite a normal thing.
Okay, yeah. I remember growing up as a kid that my parents would always bring me along to the polling station and the dog. Yeah, I appreciate it's good if your parents and grandparents were involved in that too. It kind of sets a precedent, doesn't it? And takes away some of the mystery and the fear maybe of going in to vote. We have some statistics from the Electoral Commission that are saying that young people are less likely to vote in elections. Do you have any sense of why that could be?
I feel that young people are less interested in politics these days. Like, it's not something that's talked about much in college. Sort of, they don't discuss the different parties and the policies. And obviously, because teachers can't share their political views, it's quite hard for us to become knowledgeable on politics. You know, typically, if you do have a political opinion, I find it's sort of based on opinions of others, especially their families. Like, not forced upon them, but if you grow up surrounded by these views, you do typically adopt them. So I find that is quite challenging when getting young people involved in voting.
I see. So actually creating a space where young people are able to discover for themselves perhaps where their political leanings might lie and where that might even match up with a particular party or not would actually be quite useful.
Yeah, I feel it would be.
What do you think needs to happen to our political systems and structures for young people to actually want to engage with them?
Young parliaments seem like a good idea because it allows young people to involve in political structures, but I find they're quite inaccessible for a lot of people because they tend to be London-based. And even me, who lives sort of 2 hours from London, they're still sort of quite inaccessible because of the travel. But also, they're less involved with bigger issues that the youth are passionate about, things like climate change and LGBTQ+. They don't focus on these issues as much as they do sort of minor issues like banning phones in schools, and they tend to focus on the minor issues in education rather than tackling the wider ones.
Sure.
Sort of a big one for me would be like the going back on sort of net zero targets, especially as I'm quite passionate about the environment.
Yes, and why would you bother engaging with a system which seems to be reneging on its promises or letting people down from their expectations? Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that governments could do then, apart from keeping to their promises? Is there anything that they could do which would really inspire young people, do you think, to be more involved?
I think if we saw more positive things come out of politics and policies, then the youth would be more engaged.
How could younger people who aren't quite old enough to vote be inspired to get involved in politics?
Education is key. Even talking about it with 16, 17-year-olds means that they're more likely to register at a younger age, and also getting positive exposure about politics. Politics is a good thing. It allows sort of people to get their opinions heard, and it allows us, it's sort of the government of the country.
And we should say that young people can register to vote in England from the age of 16, even though they can't actually vote until they're 18. And in Scotland and Wales, they can be 14 plus whenever they can register. They just need to wait a little while until they're actually allowed to vote in the election.
And that's the thing, young people don't know that. And because they don't know that, it's hard for them to get involved. I feel that Youth Assembly, which is run by the URC, while not a political gathering, is a good place for young people to talk about their issues. And it's quite empowering because it is youth-led. Youth bring the issues that they want to talk about. And that gets young people to engage with them more because it's a young person standing at the front, not sort of an adult sort of walking to them and making promises. But also you see the positive change this has, like the mental health resolution about mental health first aiders being in every church, which came out of Youth Assembly a few years ago. And even I've seen that implemented in my local church. They've now got a mental health first aider. And I know that's something that the youth has done within the church and something I feel quite proud to be part of.
Brilliant. Yeah, I really see that. And I've been to Youth Assembly several times now, and I love going back because it just feels like a space where people are heard, young people are heard, and young people are empowered to take action on things that they're really passionate about. The Electoral Commission states that 4 million people might not vote in the general election, 4 million, because they don't have appropriate voter ID. How do you think this new requirement will affect young people?
My only photo ID is my driving licence and my passport, and I feel if you don't have those, it's quite hard to sort of vote.
The government does have a voter authority certificate that you can apply for, but I would imagine, Maya, that actually for a lot of people, that's just putting another step in the process for them to get to vote, and maybe a step too far for some young people, and they might just give up.
Yeah, I feel like sort of going through that whole application process could put people off voting, having to sort of sign up for this voter certificate and then having to register to vote, especially if it's not something they're very interested in doing. All these sort of steps and all this waiting would sort of put them off before they even sort of get started.
Yeah, maybe a demotivator for some people. So I think we really need to encourage people as much as we can to get these things that they need. So get voter ID, make sure they have it, make sure they're registered, apply for a voter authority certificate if they need to, and give them a helping hand if there's someone who's easily put off and not willing to commit to finding out how to do all those things. So for the rest of us, yeah, we maybe need to work hard on that. And certainly JPIT is trying to do our best to equip churches and individuals to do that, especially for groups that are more at risk of not being able to vote in the coming elections. Speaking of that, we've been told that up to 8 million people might not have registered to vote in time for our elections. So I'm just going to ask you now, Maya, have you managed to actually register to vote yet?
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't. So do you have any idea how to get registered?
I assume you just sort of Google it and sort of Google voter registration and fill out a form.
Yes, absolutely. It's actually really straightforward. It takes about 5 minutes. If you're not sure, if you can't find a good Google result, it is usually the top result on Google if you just type in voter registration. But you can also visit jpit.uk/elections. That's jpit.uk/elections. And we've got all the links you need there. It literally does just take about 5 minutes to put in your details. It kind of works out where you live based on your postcode, and then you can get signed up, registered. I have to warn you, Mayor, that the deadline to register to vote is 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday, the 18th of June. And to apply for a voter authority certificate, if you don't have appropriate photo ID already, is 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 26th of June. So speed is important now. Most students will have finished their term anyway by the 4th of July, but if you're a student in halls accommodation, you can register at your halls accommodation, or if you're living at home, you can register at your home address. If you're a student, don't worry, you still get to vote, but you don't get to vote twice. You just get to vote for where you're actually living at that time. So Maya, what role, if any, would you like to see local churches playing in helping people engage with politics?
I'd like to see sort of local churches get involved in sort of smaller ways, like having them as polling stations, but also as Christians, I feel perhaps we should think more about the needs of others and the common good, and not necessarily how the policies will benefit us. Sort of think wider, think what's sort of good for the country and the future generations of the country.
Sure, and there are people within society as well that don't feel that they have a voice. And sometimes for those of us who are able to vote, it's really important for us to be able to speak on behalf of those who can't. For instance, young people as well. So we're not just voting on our own behalf, we're voting with other people's needs in mind as well. Thank you. That's really important and a really powerful statement. I'm going to ask you one more question. In one sentence, I'm going to just restrict you to one sentence. How would you urge people to be involved in the political process?
I think if you want your voice heard, voting is the best way to do so.
Completely agree. It's sad to me that there are, people within our communities who feel sometimes voiceless, feel that they don't have a voice. And we know that there are some groups within society that are less likely to vote. And we really would love to shift that, and especially with young people, to empower them and help them to really engage with voting. Thank you so much, Maya, for sharing your thoughts, your energy, your passion for engaging with the political process. For more ways for you and your church to engage with the elections, please visit jpit.uk/elections. That's jpit.uk/elections. Thanks, Maya.
And thank you for having me.
If you've enjoyed listening to our podcast, please do share it around. You can find out more on our website at jpit.uk. That's jpit.uk.